I'm running out of time today. So, hello everyone, good afternoon. We're gonna get started so we stay on time as well as we can. So my name is Rihanna Schmidt. I work at the Taylor County Health Department as a public health strategist. I am also part of the Supporting Healthy Aging Coalition, which is what has provided the tissues and the pens in front of you today. So those are yours to keep. We also have those small little cards there. That is for you to fill out to be entered to win a prize. So we have, I think, maybe like 8 or so to give away. Very exciting. But in order to win, you have to fill out the full card. You have to answer the question on the top, which is saying, what do you want to learn more about? If you do not fill that out and I draw your name, you do not win. Like I said, we're running a tight ship here. So I am a stickler. I'll throw it out. So I do need to know your name, as well as what you want to learn more about today or what you learned today. Provide us with some feedback so we can continue to put on great programs for you all. So I think that's most of what I was going to say, but if what we're doing today sounds fun and cool to you guys, if you want to be part of the Supporting Healthy Aging Coalition, we're always looking for people who are part of that aging population. I mean, we all are, but we want to make sure that we are providing things that you want to do and you want to get involved in. So we have a sign up that you can sign up on your way out, or if you're really interested and you want to write it down on the back of your card, you can write, I want to be part of the coalition, and we'll add you in, whether that's from phone calls or emails, sending you things to keep you up to date. So with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Jen Biergoots. She is the director of the Commission on Aging. So take it away.
Yeah, so thank you. I am from the Commission on Aging. I am also part of the Supporting Healthy Aging Coalition, which brings us here today. We also use this as an opportunity to bring this as a nutrition pop-up nutrition site. So what that is basically it's a nutrition site on wheels. So the meal, if you RSVP ahead of time, you were able to partake in one of our senior dining locations that we would normally do at any of our 7 nutrition sites that we have throughout the county. So the lunch today was a typical meal that we would serve throughout the county. Our suggested contribution for the meal is $5. And information about the meals can be found on our newsletter, or you can call our office and we can give you more information about that. But on to more important topics and why you're here today. I would like to introduce Jeff Kersten. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twister. So Jeff is the agency liaison for the Bureau of Consumer Protection within the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. As the agency liaison, Jeff travels around the state to educate public, businesses, and law enforcement on privacy protection, data security, businesses, and law enforcement on privacy protection. Identity theft and other areas of consumer protection. Jeff has over 13 years of experience as a police officer and is a prior consumer protection investigator for the Bureau of Consumer Protection. So please welcome Jeff here with us today. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. You did good. You did good. Yeah.
I know.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. What a wonderful turnout. Or I don't know, maybe that means everybody's scared and worried about scams and losing money and why you're here today. But no, thank you so much for being here today to talk about a not so pleasant topic. All these criminals that want to steal your money, or they steal your personal information, and then they use that to steal your identities. There's a lot going on here. So you heard about my background a little bit. I was a police officer for 13 years. I know we have one of Medford's finest in the back, so I may call on him for some local support here. Certainly during my career as a law enforcement officer, I saw people try to steal from others. And to me, that's what these scam phone calls are. This is criminal activity. You know, these criminals, they just want to steal your money. And what I hope to give you today are some red flags to look out for. And that in the future, if you see one of these red flags, you know that you can just hang up the phone, end that conversation. Don't respond to that text or email. Just stop, take a step back, and hopefully not lose money to this sort of thing. I was also an investigator for consumer protection for about a year before taking this position. So I have a unique perspective of, I kind of know what law enforcement does. You know, their job is to go after the bad guys. But then what we do at the state is we try to help people recover from scams. So we try to either help get the money back or help somebody recover a stolen identity. Just kick it off here real quick with some stats from the federal government. 5.4 million reports of scams last year. Probably more concerning to me at the bottom of that slide, $10 billion lost. Now, unfortunately, there's another stat out there that says only 1 in 11 victims actually comes forward and reports it. So for easy math, we might need to add zeros to the end of all these numbers. It's probably 50 or 60 million scams and $100 billion if it was 100% reported. We urge victims to come forward, report it to us, report it to law enforcement, give us a chance to try to get that money back or a chance to catch these criminals. Even if we can't, I mean, I still think there's value in reporting it to us. You know, numbers are more accurate. We learn what twists on these scams are working on folks. I can update presentations like this. That might help out somebody else in the future, not fall victim to that same scam. If a victim doesn't come forward, all I can say for sure is there's nothing I can do about those situations.
You tell us how to contact you, right?
Absolutely. I will definitely let you know how to contact us and toward the end though. And it's also on the back page of your book. If you just flip that over to the back cover, you see all of our contact information at the state. And I'll just get ahead of myself right now. If you were to call that 1-800 number right now at about, you know, just a little after noon, our average wait time before a real person picks up in my office is 22 seconds. So you're calling the government and we actually answer right away. We like to brag about that. Yeah, right, exactly. My information and education folks do a great job with that. Now, we hope we don't hear from you. That means that something bad's happening, right? But if you need us, we're there for you and we'll answer right away. A lot of people find this slide interesting, that younger folks fall victim to scams at twice the rate of our seniors. Who would have guessed that? Oh, a couple of you, good. I do a lot of presentations at high schools and colleges like we're in right now. And sometimes those younger folks, they don't believe this slide. I don't know if that's just the younger generation is maybe more on social media, more willing to share, doesn't think this is going to happen to them. Overconfidence, right? You know, who knows? Maybe a combination of all of that type of stuff. Now, if there's any good news for the younger folks is on average, 20-year-olds, they just don't lose as much money. Because when you're 20, exactly, right? Now, don't get me wrong, it's no less devastating for them. I mean, if it's only $50 and that cleans out the checking account and tomorrow rent is due and the car payment and they need gas, food, groceries, and all of a sudden all the money's gone, well, that's a bad day. That's a problem. But of course, the bad news for seniors is on average, they lose 3 times as much. And I know that number over my shoulder says 1450. That's just an average. I'll share some stories with you this afternoon of tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've personally talked to victims that have lost that much. These criminals are really good at figuring out how much money somebody has. It doesn't matter what the scam is. Once they have somebody on the hook, believing whatever they're saying is real, they're good at figuring out how much you have, and they're just limited by their imagination on how to get their hands on as much of it as possible. I'll share some stories with you and kind of show you how crafty they can be here coming up when we get to the individual scams. Here's one of those red flags to look out for. The payment options, how the criminal wants to get their hands on your money. Has anybody been told to watch out for gift cards or don't get talked into buying gift cards, right? Okay, so there's nothing wrong with gift cards as long as you are the one deciding to go to the store to buy one, to give one to somebody else as a gift. That is the only thing they are for. Yes, ma'am.
But they can also say, this is for your family.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the grandparent scam here coming up.
They'll tell you on the phone, this is for your family. Don't tell no one else.
Exactly. They'll often try to keep you isolated on the phone. Don't tell anybody else what's going on. This is for your family, or you know, they'll pretend to be the pastor at the church and they need you to go buy gift cards for everybody. And they'll, don't worry, I'll reimburse you right away. Lots of, you know, they're limited by their imagination. Okay, here's why the criminals like gift cards. Because that turns your money into an electronic form of money. That as soon as the victim reads the account number to somebody over the phone, or snaps a picture of that card and texts it or emails it out, that money is transferred off that card immediately to another card that the criminal has possession of. And then usually the criminal will transfer it from that card to another one, another one, another one, another one, and it kind of disappears down the line very quickly. Now, just like law enforcement, we at the state have the ability to send subpoenas and we can kind of track this money, but all that takes time, and the criminals are able to bounce it around very quickly. Now, it's not all bad news with gift cards. Some of these gift card companies have started to partner up with each other, if you will. They know their products are being used by the criminals. The quicker it can get reported to law enforcement or us, there's a chance that we can freeze those funds before that criminal is able to bounce the money too far down the line. But again, that requires it getting reported right away as soon as the victim figures out this was a scam. Now, that's not the only thing to look out for. Does anybody recognize that symbol at the top of the screen? Bitcoin. I heard somebody say it. Does anybody here know how to buy Bitcoin? Well, what is it? Yeah, right. That's a whole nother hour to go into and try to explain what it is. But this is becoming a preferred method of payment for the criminals. And let's see here. How far away are we from one of these machines? Right in Medford, it looks like. Quick Trip has them. They're all over the place. The picture you see on the screen it's called a Bitcoin kiosk, or sometimes an ATM. They're all over the place. Victims will get talked into going to the bank, pulling out money, driving to one of these machines. Their story will make sense, and I'll share one of those stories with you coming up. And as soon as the victim feeds money into this machine, they just bought Bitcoin, even though they might not even know what that is. And all that does is just turn your money into a different form of electronic money that now can be transferred around the world. I'm not here to say Bitcoin is a scam or any of that. That's not my place. I know people that'll tell you that. The only reason I bring it up in a scam presentation is because the criminals like it, because it's a way for them to get their hands on your money right away. So everybody in this room is an adult, right? If you've done your research and you want to invest in cryptocurrency, well, you're an adult. You can do what you want with your money. But if someone else is telling you you need to go to one of these machines and put money into it, just like if someone else is telling you that you need to go buy a gift card, that's what you need to watch out for. If someone else is telling you what to do with your money, that person might be just trying to steal your money. Now, it's very difficult for us or law enforcement to get the money back once it's in the world of Bitcoin, because it's very anonymous and this money gets transferred around, and it's very difficult to figure out who belongs to all of those digital wallets out there and try to get that money back. And then, of course, the criminals will still try to talk people into mailing money through the mail, putting it between pages of a book, or transferring it to somebody through legitimate services like Western Union or MoneyGram. I think the common denominator is just don't let someone else tell you what you do with your money. You know where your money needs to go, and you know who you want to give money to, friends or family members, but you know them personally, not just some voice over the phone. They don't just call us, but we're going to talk about that on the next slide. They email us, they text us, they pay for ads to pop up on social media feeds. I mean, they're making so much money doing this. Sometimes they're willing to pay money to get their messaging in front of us. Sometimes they'll pay for postage. Just because something shows up in the mailbox in paper form doesn't always mean that you can trust it. But they certainly like to call us. Let's start there. Does everybody understand that you cannot trust caller ID. They can make your caller ID say whatever they want. And every one of those manipulations is a trick to get you to answer the phone.
How
I-
many people actually have got a phone call from their own phone?
Oh, why would they put your own phone number on your caller ID?
Right?
The only thing I can figure out is it's meant to drive you bonkers and get you to answer the line and get to the bottom of what's going on. And it worked, right? Exactly. What is going on? And they try to get you to answer. The best advice is don't answer if you don't recognize the number. Or certainly if it's your own phone number, well, you know you're not calling yourself. That makes no sense. There's nothing legitimate about that call. I bet most of your scam phone calls look local,
Yeah.
right? They found out a long time ago you're less likely to answer some area code you've never heard of. Well, they know what number they're dialing. They're dialing yours. So now they just make the area code and the prefix look the same and just throw 4 random numbers at the end. Again, just meant to catch you off guard. Oh, this must be somebody I know and I just don't have them programmed into my phone. You got to have that discipline that even when it looks local, don't answer unless you know for sure who's calling you, that you recognize that number. But that doesn't always work, right? Sometimes we're waiting for that important phone call from a doctor's office or who knows who, and we don't know what number they're calling from. Sometimes you have to answer. Sometimes we just mess up and we get tricked into answering. If you answer a scam phone call, it's not the end of the world. As soon as you figure out it's a scam, don't say anything, don't push any buttons, engage with these criminals as little as possible. The more you engage with them, the more you're willing to talk to them, that just encourages them to call you more. They think it's just a matter of time before they call you up with the right scam pitch on that particular day and they get you to fall for something.
Can I suggest something?
Yeah.
I was in business, so I don't know the phone numbers, you know, when somebody calls me, I can't remember. Anyhow, what I do when they call me, and I know it's spam, I says, I'm on a no call list, so quit calling, and then I blow my deer whistle really loud.
Oh, I gotta get a beautiful.
So I
Get a little deer whistle.
yeah, I appreciate stories like that. So let me kind of give you my perspective of what we see at the state. We've all seen those funny YouTube videos of somebody blowing a whistle into the phone or an air horn or stories. We all have that one family member or friend who loves to answer the calls and waste their time and do all of that stuff. I kind of more subscribe to the don't poke the hornet's nest type line of thinking when it comes to scam phone calls. Because I get to see the other side of it. I get to see the people calling us up at the state complaining about these sorts of things. These criminals know your phone number because they just dialed it or they just tried to get a hold of you. If you upset them, I've seen extreme cases where they will then just set up a computer to call your phone every 15 seconds. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, your phone never stops ringing. I have seen them ruin people's phone numbers. Okay, well then I go back to the phone store and I get a new phone number, right? Well, the only phone numbers that are available at the phone store right now are numbers everybody else has gotten rid of because they're sick and tired of scam phone calls. And sometimes you get a number that's 10 times worse. So, I mean, I appreciate, you know, I love watching the videos with the police, you know, captain that gets a phone call that he's got a warrant for his arrest. And, you know, sometimes it's humorous, but I don't like to aggravate these individuals.
When they call me again, they hear me answer, they hang up like.
Sometimes, well, it works every time but the last time, hopefully, so.
Then the other, you when they call for Doris Applebeck. I says, I'm her roommate and she passed away.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so
So
sorry.
real quick here, I'm gonna share another piece of information of why we don't want to talk at all, coming up here on the next slide. So hold that thought. But sometimes we answer, right? We don't know if it's that important phone call that we are actually waiting for. If you answer and there's that 2 or 3 seconds of silence, that's a robocall. I hang up before the click even starts. None of those recorded messages are worth your time to listen to. Often those recorded messages will try to get you to push a button. You know, it'll be the scam pitch and it'll say, press 1 to talk to a customer service agent or press 2 to end this call and be placed on the do not call list. Don't push any buttons on your phone. That doesn't put your number on the do not call list. It moves your number to the top of the list to get more of these scam phone calls. Because the criminals, they're interested in calling the numbers where people answer and engage with them. Because they, again, think it's just a matter of time before they say the right things and they get you to buy in to what they're saying. Does anybody know if you're on the real do not call list in Wisconsin?
That doesn't work anymore.
Ah, perfect. I appreciate that. It doesn't work anymore, right? It doesn't do much of a job for scam phone calls.
Except when they call me, I blow the whistle because I'm on no calls.
So my agency, the Bureau of Consumer Protection, is the agency that administers the do not call program. So don't rush the stage. Let me defend myself very quickly. That program has nothing to do with scam phone calls. The do not call list is for telemarketing. Telemarketing is where a real business wants to call you up as a Wisconsin consumer and try to sell you something. Businesses have to register with us at the state. There's actually huge financial penalties, $100 a phone call, double that if a business calls somebody that's on the do not call list. And you're talking about businesses making hundreds of thousands or millions of phone calls. That's and we go, we make sure the real businesses are following our rules. Unfortunately, the criminals are not intimidated by our do not call laws in Wisconsin. I mean, they're criminals, right? They're willing to steal your money just because it's against the law to call you isn't going to stop them. But here's the value I think, in being on the do not call list. Here comes an incoming phone call. I don't recognize that number. Well, I'm on the do not call list, so I know that's not a real business calling me up to try to sell me something. So by default, that number I don't recognize, it's probably just a scam. If you're not on the do not call list, well, trust me, you're going to get all the same current scam phone calls you already get. But now on top of that, you're going to get all kinds of real phone calls from businesses trying to sell you stuff. Good luck trying to figure out which ones are real and which ones are fake. I think it's like page 4 or 5 of your book. There's info on the do not call list and how to get on there if you're interested. And then have you heard of this advice of as soon as you answer the phone, they might say, can you hear me okay? And before you know it, you just said, don't say yes, right? I think that's good advice to not say yes. And here's another, this whole slide that's up on the screen right now, this artificial intelligence that's coming at us. Feels like it's coming at us 1,000,000 miles an hour, right? Even the experts don't even know where this is really going to go. This is another reason why I don't like to talk to these criminals on the phone, because look at that first bullet point. It only takes 3 seconds of your audio, and they can use a computer to record that voice, analyze it, and now they can make your voice say any word they want. English, Spanish, French, whatever language they want, they can use your voice to say every word that's out there. So it's so much more than just don't say yes. I think you don't want to talk to these individuals at all. I already mentioned earlier, we're going to eventually get to the grandparent scam. They might use this technology to mimic the voice of a family member. So if you've been following along up till this point, when you're on the receiving end of a phone call, well, you can't trust caller ID. You can't trust what the voice is telling you because, well, a criminal is just going to lie to you, right? And now I'm telling you, you can't even trust necessarily when you recognize the voice of a family member or a friend. When you're on the receiving end of a call, you do not know who that is. Now, I'm not saying every one of your phone calls is fake and you should just hang up on family and friends, unless you want to use me as an excuse, that's fine. But I would just say this, if the conversation all of a sudden starts talking about your money and a family member, a friend, and you got to go to the bank and pull out money or buy gift cards or wire me money, or as soon as we start talking about your money, pump the brakes. That might not be a family member or a friend you're talking to. That could be a criminal using this technology. This technology is already good enough that it will fool the mother of her own child. And that was 1.5 years ago. There was a story in Utah where a mom got a phone call from her 15-year-old daughter. Mom, I messed up. Mom, I'm in trouble. And then a male's voice came on the line and said she'd been kidnapped. And the mom recognized the voice of her own child, thought her daughter had actually been kidnapped. Her daughter was fine. She's on a ski trip with friends. It was just a criminal using this technology. Of course, they don't just call us.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I got a call and it said scam call.
Ah, yes.
Here it was somebody, it wasn't a scam call. It was from somebody from the Republican Party.
Sure.
Reminding of a meeting.
Yep. So that's that, you know how your cell phones will now tell you sometimes spam alert, scam phone call, the screen will turn red. Or yep, even sometimes on the landline, the caller ID will let you know. So that's a federal program from the FCC that is, I mean, in layman's terms, they're authenticating phone calls. Somehow that call failed authentication. Now it's not perfect. That's why the phone companies still allow those calls to come through to your phone. Where if you actually recognize that number, it may be okay to answer that call. My personal experience is 99% of the time when it says scam phone call, it's a scam. Whenever I see that, I don't answer unless for sure I recognize that number. But the program's not perfect. So sometimes a real call will slip through. My best guess would be that the criminals just happen to be using that phone number to spoof calls on other people's phones. And then when you got that call, oh, it looks like this is another scam one, but that one happened to be legitimate. But for the most part, when you see that scam alert, don't answer. That's just your phone company letting you know it's a spam call. And you can always hang up. All right, they don't just call us, right? They email us, they text us. I think the #1 text message out there right now is, we're trying to deliver your package, but we have incomplete address information.
Yeah.
Right? We've all got that one, right? Just this morning. All right, so here's how I kind of deal with all of those incoming emails and text messages. Well, let's say I didn't order anything over the last couple days. Well, that makes it easy, right? That's fake. I just ignore it, move on with my life. But let's say I did order something a couple days ago. I'm still going to treat all those incoming emails and text messages as fake. Maybe they're real. It's not even worth my time trying to figure it out. If I want to really find out what's going on with my package or my order, I go back to where I ordered it from. I log into that account. I go to my order history. That's where you find the real tracking information. Just never take those shortcuts of just, oh, all I got to do is click here, call this number. And that's what all these scam messages is. They want you to click those links or call those phone numbers. We all remember the one back in the day, somebody just charged $999 to your Amazon account. If it wasn't you, call this number to report fraud. Well, if anybody has ever placed an Amazon order, you know for sure they don't send you a text message making sure that you're okay spending that money, right? They just process your order and they send you what you ordered. Those are all just meant to scare somebody. You might see things like this pop up on social media feeds. Too good to be true. There is no such thing as sitting at home and filling out surveys and winning $500, $1,000 gift cards. I had a beautiful drive up I-39 today. Left Madison about 8 o'clock this morning to be here in time. But I'm going to be honest with you right now. If I could sit at home and fill out surveys and win $1,000 gift cards, sorry, Jen, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd quit my job tomorrow and I'd just do one of these a day for the rest of my life, and that'd be pretty good money, right? All victims do is give up all this personal information, put their identities at risk, get nothing to show for it. You see a lot of this October, November, December, leading up to the holidays, pulling on somebody's heartstrings that can't afford Christmas gifts. Oh, I can save the holidays if I just fill out this survey and get this $1,000 gift card. And then they just get themselves deeper and deeper in trouble. Too good to be true. All right, let's talk about some actual scams that you might come across. There's a lot of psychology these criminals use against us. They know how to push our buttons. Again, we're all adults in this room. I think we established that earlier, but we're all humans in this room too, right? No androids, no robots up here. Not yet anyway. And these criminals, they know how to push our buttons. Has anybody ever sat in on one of those pushy salesman tech, like a timeshare sales thing or whatever? Those hard sell techniques. Well, there's a reason why salespeople do that, because it works. Sometimes salespeople can make us buy stuff we don't even really want to buy. It's kind of similar for the criminals. They can sometimes make us do things and manipulate us make us do things we don't really want to do. And I think we're more easily manipulated than sometimes we care to admit. One of their favorite techniques is they try to tell you something scary, get you to panic or be upset about some situation. Well, when you pretend to be from the government, it's easy to say scary things, right? You owe back taxes, and if you don't pay them right now over the phone, they're going to send the police to your house and arrest you. I know I never did that as a police officer. I'm guessing you've never arrested somebody for not paying taxes, right? I mean, if you don't pay your taxes, you eventually get in trouble, right? But it's not like somebody's gonna show up to your house and arrest you like that. Or they tell you you have a warrant for your arrest over the phone. That will never be a phone call, right? That's usually a face-to-face conversation law enforcement wants to have with you. You've reached your Medicare benefit limit for the year, and if you don't do something, you're gonna lose benefits. There's always this urgent, take action quickly, or something bad is gonna happen. That's a red flag to look out for. Your social security number has been suspended. There's no such thing as a suspended social security number, but they try to get somebody to panic, and then they don't have time to really think it through, and they hope they can get that person to make a bad decision. Of course, that bad decision is buying gift cards or going to the bank and pulling out money. I know that sounds like a really big stretch, that how am I going to go from a phone call that says something weird's going on with my social security number to all of a sudden I'm driving to the bank and I'm pulling out money and I'm heading down to the street towards Quick Trip to put money into a Bitcoin ATM. I know that seems like a big stretch. I have talked to so many victims that A to B is a very short distance, and people that have made it right in front of those machines before they finally snapped out of it, or they followed through with it and they ended up losing money. All these victims tell me the same thing afterwards. I can't believe what I did. I know about that stuff. They told me to watch out for Bitcoin and gift cards and all this, but in that moment, it seemed so real. Will the government ever call us?
Never called me.
Never called me. There you go. There's some good evidence. Will the federal government call you out of the blue? No, they'll send a letter to your house if they have legitimate business with you. But here's where it gets tricky. Has anybody here ever tried to get a hold of somebody at Social Security? Is that an easy agency to get a real live human being at? I'm not picking on them. Let me put it in perspective here. I recently talked to somebody that works at Social Security at the Rhinelander office. They told me 60% of the incoming phone calls to their office are criminals pretending to be Social Security recipients trying to change direct deposit information. 6 out of 10 phone calls. So they're trying to avoid those, and then they're trying to answer the other 40% of the phone calls who are real people calling up with questions. I mean, it's a bit of a mess, right? They're on the receiving end of scam phone calls as well. So a lot of agencies have started to, I mean, often we find ourselves on the phone and I don't know if you are who you say you are, and you don't know if I am who I say I am. So we got to find a way that we can make sure we're talking to the right people. I believe what Social Security does is if you call up, you can make an appointment for an agent to call you back. And when you do that, they give you a PIN number over the phone. So now at a later date, when the real agent calls you back, they're able to read that PIN number to you over the phone. Now I know I'm connected with the right person. Similar to when you call into the bank nowadays and they ask you those security questions. Even if the bank recognizes your voice, they still ask you those security questions. That's a good thing. You want them to do that. You don't want the bank to just trust that they recognize your voice. You want to make sure that they ask you those questions so that they don't actually end up talking to the wrong person. Bottom line, you can always hang up the phone. If something doesn't feel right, something doesn't seem right, you can always hang up the phone. We can start over from scratch if we're not sure we're talking to the right people. Yes.
I got a question for you. I don't know if it's the right time to ask it or not, but how do these scammers use somebody else's business name or something that they say it's calling, like Tombstone Pizza calls, you know? How do you know not to answer those, or especially here in Medford, I suppose, but it's local, so you know people that are there. You're wondering why sometimes they use a business like Acker Brothers, which is a.
Yeah, so how do the criminals put that stuff on your caller ID? I don't know really the nuts and bolts of how they manipulate the caller ID. I think often they just put a random number on your caller ID, and then your phone recognizes that number and puts the Tombstone business, name to it. But if you're not expecting a call from that business, even if it looks local, just let it go to voicemail. You can always check voicemail later to make sure that it wasn't legitimate. Yeah, even when they look like they're local calls, my advice is to not answer them. Just let it go to voicemail, and you can always check that later. Here's a story for you, just being in the wrong place, getting one of these scam phone calls. A utility imposter scam. It's a simple scam. They pretend to be the power company. What's the big power company in this area? Taylor has their own cooperative. I mean, it could happen with that, but usually they pick on the big companies, you know, XL Energy and We Energies and WPS but I'm sorry?
We never heard about them around here.
But just for the sake of listening to the story of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I talked to a lady that received a phone call from the power company. In this case, it was XL Energy, but just pretend it was Taylor County. And, you know, she answered, of course, that's who they said they were with. And then they said, you're behind on your bill. Get her head spinning a little bit. I thought I paid last month. What's going on? And then they say, we've got a crew on the way to your house right now to turn your power off. I need you to pay right now over the phone. I might be able to stop them. So that's a red flag to look out for. It's urgent. Take action now or something bad's going to happen. So she just heard that. She walks over to the living room window and she looks outside. Guess what happens to be driving down her street? XL Energy truck, a power truck happens to be coming down her street at that exact moment by pure chance. Put yourself in her shoes just for a second. Oh my goodness. Who wouldn't think you're talking to the real power company? They're here. Oh no, they're going to turn my power off. And she panicked. She made a bad decision. And she gave her credit card number over the phone and she lost $5,000 that day. $5,000, right? I'm guessing her power bill was not that expensive. This is just another one of those examples of they're going to try to get as much money out of that as possible. It has nothing to do with how much the power bill was. Again, you can always hang up the phone, right? What if you hung up on the real Taylor Electric? Well, sure, they might call us back, but I mean, I'm their customer, not the other way around, right? I mean, there's no repercussions of hanging up. But I'm not going to wait for them to call me back. I just heard something weird going on with my bill. I want to get to the bottom of this. So I'm going to call them back. Do I call the number back that just showed up on caller ID? No. Do I Google Taylor Electric and just take the first number that pops up on the screen? And be careful with that too. Is there somewhere I can go to find a real phone number? There you go. Your bill, I guarantee, has a phone number on it. I like that because it works across the board. Your bank statement, your credit card statement, every plastic card in your wallet, they all have phone numbers on them. Those are the numbers that you can trust. Remember, we already talked about when you're on the receiving end of a phone call, you don't know who that is. But when I put a real phone number into this and I dial out, that's the only way I know who I'm talking to. Now that I know I have the electric company on the phone, hey, we've just heard something weird's going on with my bill. Can you check my account? You'll most likely find out everything's just fine. And that's just a scam that's going around. Oh, the tech support scam. So many different ways this scam can go. These criminals are truly IT experts and they want to get into your computer. They might put a pop-up window on your screen that says, your computer is infected with a virus. Do not turn it off. Call this 1-800 number.
Yes.
Turn the speakers up and it's playing like a siren noise. Never call those numbers. Never give someone remote access to your computer. If you've ever seen someone else moving that mouse pointer around on your screen and you don't personally know who that is, disconnect from the internet, give that computer to a trusted computer repair place to make sure that those criminals didn't do something bad while they were in there. I talked to a person up way up further north than we are right now, way up in northern Wisconsin, that got this pop-up window on her computer. She couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. Husband couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. They ended up calling the number. Before it was said and done, they talked her into going to the bank and pulling out $17,000. And here's how they did it. This is crafty. This is how tricky these criminals can be. So they'll pretend to be the good guys, Microsoft fraud, Apple support, and they pretend to be the computer experts. Well, they are computer experts, but not on the good side. So she calls up the number and it's all they have you do is open up a web browser and type some numbers into the address bar. It's literally that simple. And before you know it, somebody else is moving that mouse pointer around on her screen. So they've got her on the screen or on the phone and she's looking at her screen and they're pulling up all kinds of stuff, getting her all worked up. Oh, the computer is infected with all these viruses and look at this and look at this and the criminals are in your computer. And well, that part was true, right? And getting her all worked up. And then they told her, oh no, you do online banking on your computer. The criminals are in your computer. They're going to steal all your money. We need to get to your money first and we need to protect it. So she panics. She thinks she's protecting her money. They talk her into going down to the bank and pulling out all of her money. And then they tell her, don't tell your bank what's going on. Your bank will tell you your money's fine. But it's not. The criminals are going to steal it. You need to go get that money and we need to protect it. So she panics and she runs down to the bank and she pulls out all of that money, $17,000. And they keep her on the phone the whole time they're doing this because, well, of course they do, right? They don't want to give her a chance to calm down. They don't want to give her a chance to breathe. They want to keep her all worked up. So she's now got 17,000 in hand, still on the phone, and they have her drive to a gas station. What do you think was inside that gas station? One of those Bitcoin ATMs. Okay, ma'am, what we're going to do is we're just going to temporarily move your money into this other account. It's going to keep it safe until we can figure out what's going on with your computer. So she feeds $17,000 into this machine. She told me later she didn't even know what Bitcoin was. It prints off a receipt. Okay, ma'am, I just need that information for my records. I'll add that to your case file. So she reads it to them over the phone and click, they hang up on her. Because as soon as she reads that information off that receipt, they don't need her anymore, right? They've got her $17,000. She's standing inside of a gas station and she just lost everything. All started with just a pop-up window on her computer. I recently, just within the last 2 weeks, heard a story from a victim that I get questions a lot, like, how do they talk people into going to like a Quick Trip or a gas station and going inside with money and putting it into this machine? And there's at least one criminal out there that was trying to explain that away by telling victims that these Bitcoin ATMs, these are actually undercover government depositories that they've put all over the country in convenient locations, that in case there's problems, there's a place where people can take their money right away and safely secure it and tuck it away. I mean, they're limited by their imagination, so they can talk themselves in or out of anything. All right, how do you get rid of these pop-up windows if you ever see one? If you know how to do the Control-Alt-Delete and hit the and just restart your computer, they make these pop-up windows the same size as your computer screen, so it's not as simple of just hitting the X up in the corner. Sometimes you can't see that. I've talked to victims that tell me the power button didn't work. They disabled it remotely. Hold that power button down for 10 seconds, do a hard reboot. But you know what? Bottom line, if you have to, unplug that computer, pull the battery out of the laptop. Might not be the best for your operating system, but trust me, it's better than calling those numbers. Romance, relationship, sweetheart scams. This is the #1 scam in the US. There is more money lost to this scam than all other scams put together, according to the FBI. I was recently doing this presentation in Prairie du Chien, so way southwest of us. And I had some local police officers in the room with me and about 35 bankers, and a lieutenant from the police department stood up when I got to this slide and addressed the room and said, obviously I can't give you names, but I can tell you right now there's about 7 or 8 people in town that are all sending money overseas to boyfriends and girlfriends. And we, law enforcement, can't convince them to stop. Prairie du Chien's population 5,000, 7 or 8 victims that law enforcement even knows about. It's probably more, right? If that's happening in every city, village, town, across the state, across the nation, this is all over the place. These criminals they put in time. They'll devote weeks, months, sometimes even years in building up these relationships. All right, how does this stuff start? Have you ever got one of those weird text messages from somebody out of the blue, like, hey, how are you? Or are we still doing dinner tomorrow night? Or just some weird text out of the blue? If you ever respond to those messages, you'll probably hear back, oh, I'm sorry, I had the wrong phone number, but you know, well, you sound interesting. Where do you live? And they'll just strike up a conversation with you. If you ever interact with those big public social media posts, you know, the ones I'm talking about that have hundreds of thousands of likes and comments, then the criminals see your profile on social media and they'll send you messages on like Facebook Messenger, and they'll try to strike up conversations with you. There's so many ways that people can talk to you online now. You play games online, of course, the social media we just talked about. There's always a chat button. And when you're talking to people online, you just have no idea who that is. These criminals will tell you everything you want to hear. And they'll devote, like I said, weeks, months, and even years into building up these relationships so convincingly that even like the lieutenant said, we can't convince them it's not real.
You know, in July, I was watching Facebook and I saw this ad on Facebook about JCPenney and they were selling cheap clothes. So I ordered, you know, I spent $70 and never got it.
Oh yeah, you gotta watch out for the ads on social media as well, right? Too good to be cheap pricing. Yep, happens to lots of us. We actually have an employee in my agency that tried to buy a pair of shoes online and it was just from a fake website. Like sometimes it happens. But these romance scams, some red flags, somebody could be tied up in a romance scam. The other party has professed that they love you and they've never met you face to face. I was recently doing this presentation in the Fox Valley area for credit union. The credit union told me that it's now their policy when people come in and pull out large sums of money. If the customer says that they're giving the money to like a fiance or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, the bank will actually now ask the customer, have you ever met your fiance? Isn't that crazy? That's the world we live in. Banks have to ask people whether you've met a fiance before. The criminals, they have all these excuses of why they've never met you. They're in the military, they're serving overseas. That's a popular one. You know, they're a citizen of another country. There's visa issues right now. They can't visit. You're in Wisconsin, they're in some other states, too far to drive. They need to get some kind of surgery before they get on an airplane. They have all these excuses of why they can't meet you. Often their story is they have a lot of money, but it's tied up in a divorce or a lawsuit, and they just don't have access to it right now. They just dangle that carrot that someday their money's going to come through, and if you can just help them out this one time, if they can talk the victim into paying that one time, that's not the end of the scam, that's just the beginning. But these are long-term scams. They never really end. They just keep going, and they just try to keep getting more and more and more money out of that person. Another long-term scams are the lottery scams. The U1 Publishers Clearinghouse phone calls. Has anybody got that phone call? A few of you? No, this isn't a scary phone call, right? This is exciting. Who hasn't dreamed about what it would be like to win the lottery? You won $10.8 million in your choice of 3 cars, and they're going to be here tomorrow with a giant check and balloons and a film crew, and it's happening. But then right before it happens, there's a little hiccup in the system and you got to pay a little money out of pocket. That's the catch. That's the red flag. Do real people sometimes win stuff in life? Sure, right? I've never done it, but I hear if you go to the casino and you hit the jackpot, what's the threshold? Like $1,200? I think if you win more than $1,200, that's where they fill the paperwork out with you right on site. Great. Take my taxes out of my money and just give me what's left over. If you're telling me I got to pull my wallet out of my pocket, pay to get to my money, that's a scam. They might even send the victim a bad check to cover these little fees that they're talking about. So in a weird way, it doesn't feel like you're paying out of pocket, but it's a bad check. So the victim is still paying it. You know, $150 doesn't seem like much when you think you've won millions. But just like the romance scams, if they can get somebody to pay one time, again, that's not the end of the scam, that's just the beginning. And I think I have a fun little way I can show you how they manipulate us. So this is a pretty good sample size here. What do we got? Like 50 some people here? All right, I've got a question for everybody. Raise your hand if you like to admit when you're wrong.
I agree, that's the only way you get help.
Couple of you. All right, yep, good. I was expecting 2. My average is 1 per 30. So you guys are like every other human I've ever talked to in Wisconsin. We're more alike than we care to admit, right? All right, here's why I asked you that goofy question. Put yourself in the shoes of the victim just for a second. You made the first payment. You sent some money off. You thought you won the lottery. You sent some money off and you're expecting a loved one to show up and sweep you off your feet. And now all of a sudden, request number 2 comes through for more money. In order to not send in the second payment, you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror, admit you were wrong, you got scammed, you lost $150 and just stop and cut your losses. But that's hard to do, right? Or even if we can do it, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to admit that you were wrong and that you got scammed.
Well, it feels good to know you caught them. Right?
Well, if we can catch them, that's a good feeling, right?
Maybe they didn't get caught, but you didn't get scammed again.
Yes, exactly. But it sounds weird, but it's actually easier for victims to buy the lie that they're selling you and believe what they're saying and send that next payment in. And this next payment's gonna straighten everything out. But of course, we know it's not. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And if someone had trouble walking away when they've only lost $150, how do they walk away when they lost 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000? I know of two couples in the state of Wisconsin that have been tied up in lottery scams for over 5 years each. Law enforcement cannot convince them to stop sending money. They're still sending money to this day, I believe. 5 years this has been going on. It started with both couples. It started off with a $150 payment. The last update I got from the sheriff was one couple has already lost $88,000 and the other's $106,000. And they can't convince people to stop sending money. No, you don't understand. You're not supporting me. And when my money comes through and you didn't believe in me, you're going to be sorry. And they have these couples on just an island by themselves. And it's like an us versus the world mentality. And they just keep getting more and more money out of them. All I can say is that if I'm ever in a situation where I have friends and family and maybe even somebody wearing a badge standing in front of me telling me to stop sending money, my friends and family and law enforcement are not trying to get between me and a loved one, or not trying to get between me and my winnings in the lottery. They're trying to stop me from losing money to a scam. All I can say is if I'm ever in that situation, I hope that's enough that it'll snap me out of it. And I just stop whatever I'm at that point, you just stop. Oh, the grandparent scam. I told you we'd get to this one. Has anybody ever got this phone call? Does anybody care to share any details?
Yeah, they said my grandson was in Puerto Rico. It's like, unhipsy way down there.
Grandson was in Puerto Rico.
He was supposed to be at work. So I went to where he works, and his truck was there in the yard. I called HR lady, and across, and I said, I need to talk to my grandson. We brought him up in the back. He said, what's the matter? I knew right away. So I called the sheriff's office, and they told me someone in there was scammed. In the sheriff's office.
Oh, somebody got scammed in the sheriff's office. That happens to the best of us. Yeah, so you got a phone call that your grandson was in Puerto Rico, but you actually drove to where he worked and you saw his truck, and well, that's a good way to verify it, right? You track him down right at work. I like it.
And he called me back and said, is the money in the bank? I said, no, you're not getting any.
Oh yeah, once the criminals think that you might pay, they are relentless. If they think they're close to getting that payment,
You're not.
your phone's gonna ring off the hook for a little while.
So they called me and told me my grandson had just been in Canada, just was in Canada and got arrested for something and needed bail.
It was in Canada and got arrested.
I just shortly got off the phone with my daughter who said he just shipped out on a submarine an hour ago.
If he's on a submarine, he's probably not in Canada. I'm gonna guess. Yep.
In the middle of
Yep.
Canada.
Any other quick stories?
The last 4 days I've had calls,
Ah,
and my grandson, he lives in Washington, the state of Washington, and they said this is a legal matter. And they give a legal number and everything, I don't,
oh, so they're pretending to be the lawyers.
well, it's somebody that was working for this, and it came out of Eau Claire. The number came out of Eau Claire, then I got one that came out of Nebaga. I wrote something, Nebagaman, Wisconsin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was the same thing, but it was a different person. The other one sounded kind of foreign.
Sure.
That was
Yeah.
talking, but this one didn't. It said this legal matter and that I might be called in and have to be.
Oh, I've heard elaborate stories with some of these grandparent scams that your grandchild was involved in a car crash. The driver of the other car was pregnant and she's like a famous person. So your grandson has had to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So even if you call up your grandson, they're not allowed to tell you what's going on. They signed an NDA. I mean, they're elaborate with their stories on some of this stuff. But usually it's somebody got arrested or somebody got involved in a car crash. Often it's different countries, you're in Canada or Mexico, or, you're traveling, arrested for drunk driving or drugs. All right. So to me, there's kind of two versions of this scam. There's one where the criminals were kind of lazy. They didn't do their homework. They don't know if you have grandsons or granddaughters. They don't know the names. They don't know the family details. These are the phone calls where, well, grandma, it's your favorite, or grandpa, it's your oldest, and they'll try to trick you into like saying a name. I know some seniors across the state that have a strategy that as soon as they answer this call, they'll immediately say, "Is that you, Jimmy?" And what do you think the criminal says? "Yeah, grandpa, it's Jimmy." They don't have a grandchild named Jimmy. Like, then you can get to the bottom of it real fast, you know, that, okay, you know this is fake, and you can just feel good about hanging up. But there's another version of this scam where the criminals put in some work. So I don't know if anybody in this room is on social media, but, well, if you don't mind me asking, who has grandkids?
Who has grandkids?
Lots of you, right? I bet your grandkids are on social media. So just for sake of conversation, let's say you have a 16-year-old granddaughter. She just got her driver's license. She's just got her first car. I guarantee she took a picture of that and she posted it to Instagram, right? And let's say 6 months ago, she tagged you in a post on Facebook and she wished you a happy birthday. But she didn't call you grandma or grandpa. She called you Nana or Papa or whatever that little nickname is that your grandchild has for you. And I bet she posted a video over here on TikTok, right? Because what 16-year-old hasn't done that? Those three things by themselves don't seem like that big of a deal. Picture of my car, a birthday greeting, and some little fun video over here. But if a criminal sees that and they put all this together and they know the name of your grandchild and they know your name and they know that nickname that your grandchild calls you, and she's about 16 and she just got her first car, and here's what, you know, a picture of it, so you know what kind of car it is. And then they come over here to the video on TikTok and they use a computer to grab her voice. And now they call you up and it's her voice. You recognize the voice of your own grandchild, and she's crying with you on the phone. She just got in a car crash with her new car and she's in so much trouble, and don't tell mom and dad. And that's a scary phone call, right? That's a real scary phone call. You recognize the voice of your own grandchild. That's a real scam phone call that's going around right now. Now, here's the problem with this scam. Again, I already saw most everybody has grandchildren, or we say this is the grandparent scam, but this is gonna be nieces or nephews too, right? Here's the problem with this scam. Do sometimes the real family members, the real nieces and nephews and grandchildren, not make the best decisions in life? I get it. I used to be a police officer. Real people get arrested, get involved in car crashes, bad things happen. None of us would like to knowingly hang up on a real family member that's in distress. So how do you get to the bottom of this stuff? One strategy we have is you can create a family password. You know, just a unique word between you and the immediate family members. If you ever get this call and just for a second you think this is real, hey, what's the family password? If you're talking to a criminal and you ask that question, what's the next thing you're going to hear? Click, right? They don't know how to answer that question. If you're talking to your real grandchild, well, for their sake, let's hope they remember. Otherwise, they're going to hear click, right? You're going to hang up on them. But here's the bottom line. You can't be sending money over the phone with just one incoming phone call. You got to verify this through multiple sources. Call the real family member back. Call the parents of the real family member. Have some face-to-face conversations.
Have them talk to grandpa.
Have them talk to grandpa. Here's the bottom line, and I know this might sound a little cold, but I was a police officer for 13 years. I was at the other end of the car crashes and the arrests happening. Let's just pretend for a second something really did happen, and it's really a family member that's on the phone that's in trouble. You sending money right now at 11 o'clock at night is not going to make that situation better. You have plenty of time to figure out there's really something going on, or verify there's not something actually going on, and that was just a scam phone call. You never have to make a quick decision.
I think if somebody was supposedly arrested and they told you what city, you should be able to call that city and find out if they were.
Oh yeah. If somebody was actually arrested, you can call the jail, you can call
Some
yep.
cities have so many different jails that.
Yep, exactly. Plenty of time to figure it out. Okay, I know we're at the top of the hour. I just got a couple slides left here for you. If you ever try to sell stuff online, you can be bombarded by people that want to buy what you're selling, and they're going to offer you more money than what you're asking. Too good to be true, right? winter's coming, right? Let's just pretend, you're selling a snowblower online, you know, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, you're asking $500. You're gonna have people reach out to you that already have cashier's checks and money orders made out for like 800. They'll have some story. Hey, I tried to buy a snowblower from a guy yesterday and the sale fell through. So, but I've already got the check. It's made out. You know, it's good. You can take it right to the bank. You can show it to them. And you know what? I'll send you the check. You take it to the bank. Your trouble. You keep an extra $100 for yourself. Send the other $200 back to me, and I'll swing by tomorrow and pick up that snowblower. They have no intention of swinging by tomorrow and picking up a snowblower. They're just trying to send you a bad check, get you to take it to your bank account and send them a couple $100 back. And when that check bounces, the bank's going to be calling you saying, hey, we need that money back. All these checks bounce, and they don't just bounce in a day or two. It can take weeks. Banks have verified this for me. It can take weeks for some of these checks to bounce. No one's going to pay you more than what you're asking. We're trying to reach a bunch of cars auto warranty. Are we all tired of that one? These criminals will pretend, they'll tell you whatever just to get you to sign up for their coverage. I literally talked to one gentleman that said to these guys, I don't think you're going to cover my truck. It's in the front yard on blocks and it doesn't have an engine. They put him on hold for 30 seconds and they came back and said, yeah, sir, we'll cover it. Oh, of course they will. They just want to steal his money. And then I'm here to tell you that when your vehicle breaks down, your situation never, ever, ever applies to their policy. They never pay out. They just take money in. Oh, charity scams. Support the police, fire, EMS, those types of phone calls.
Steady.
All right. All the time, right? Okay. So guess who doesn't have to follow the do not call list?
Charity.
Charities. So you're on the receiving end of a phone call. You're going to get real phone calls from real charities, and you're going to get fake phone calls from criminals pretending to be charities trying to steal your money. You want to know how to tell the difference?
Yeah.
You can't. There's no way to tell the difference.
I tell them I donate dog because he's not out of state.
I don't even talk to them.
Well,
I understand, but I think of it like this. Don't let someone call you up and tell you where your money should go. You know where your money should go. You know who you want to support. You reach out to them, not the other way around.
One of these charity, took a charity calls, they're getting your voice too.
Oh, they could, absolutely. Yep, they could record your voice. And I hear there's like a big election that's coming up here. Guess who else doesn't have to follow the do not call list? So you're going to get phone calls to support this candidate or this party or that party. There's no way to tell whether those are real or not. Again, you know who you want to support. If you want to reach out to them, you reach out to them.
I can tell if they're real or not, if they're saying you should vote for a Democratic candidate, it's gotta be, and they're not telling you anything about the Democrats, it's gotta be a Democrat. If they're not saying anything bad about the Republicans, it's gotta be.
All right, just a couple slides left here. Investment scams. So the Department of Financial Institutions is just a different state agency. They investigate investment scams. So if somebody loses money and you thought it was an investment opportunity, whether it's cryptocurrency or a timeshare or precious metals, or you get involved in some Ponzi pyramid, multi-level marketing scheme, just report it to us. We'll get it to the right state agency. They'll look into these investment scams. I just did a presentation down in Fort Atkinson, down by Madison, for a bank. And I talked to a victim that has lost $800,000 to an investment scam, and they're still trying to get another $267,000 out of them. All right, how do you stop some of this stuff from happening? We already talked about you can't trust caller ID. The FTC says we're all consumers. The first thing you should do is call up your phone company and complain about scam phone calls. Some of your phone companies might have blockers they can put in place on your line.
How do you get the phone company?
Yeah, you got to call your own phone company, whether whoever your cell service provider is or your landline. Yep.
If they do not, I can't get a person.
We can talk afterwards about how to do that. But a lot of them have blockers they can put in place on your line, but they won't put those blockers in place until you call up and complain. With a smartphone, there's a few extra options. There's some apps you can download that'll cut down on robocalls. But with a iPhone is the black picture and the bottom picture is Android and the white picture. Built into your smartphones are some extra features. And both Androids and iPhones, you can block unknown calls. So basically, if you turn this on and a number tries to call you that you don't have already programmed into your address book, very likely your phone won't even ring. It'll just dump that call right to voicemail. Like I mentioned earlier, you can always check voicemail later to make sure you didn't actually miss something important. A lot of people I talk to like to have this on all the time when they're not expecting a phone call from like the doctor's office.
This thing actually lets us put a voicemail on, even though the phone don't ring?
Yep, it'll just dump it right to voicemail. And then you'll just get a notification later that you have a voicemail message. And you can always check that. But then life happens, right? Might be someday you're waiting for an important phone call and you don't know what number they're going to call you from. If that's the case and you don't want to miss the real call, some people just go back in, turn this off for a day or two, wait till you get that real call. And when you're not expecting something, you just go back in and turn this on and your phone is much less annoying. I hope none of this happens to you. I hope you don't lose money to a scam. I hope your friends and family and loved ones don't lose money to a scam. But if it happens, please come forward. Please report it to us. Give us a chance to look into it. There's all of our information right there. I already mentioned how easy it is to call us. And then today's presentation was the common scams and fraud. And it's not lost on me that all of you have little pieces of paper in front of you that are asking what you'd like to learn about next. So I'm going to put my whole list of what I offer next. If you ever want to have me back for like identity theft or safe online shopping or anything else you see on the screen, I would say write that down on your piece of paper.
Ooh, nice.
I'm going to leave this screen up and then we can open up to any other questions that somebody might have.
Sorry, I'm gonna interject, because we do have, Chad with us as well as Jen and some folks from Associated Bank. So I don't know if the folks are able to hang on to questions for Jeff specifically. I think we went a little over, we maybe didn't budget our time right. Here I am running a tight ship and I didn't do a good job.
Oh, that's my
So,
bad.
no, it's okay, it's okay. Because I think there were some really good questions and really good real life situations that came up during your presentation. So I think I always appreciate that. Are you able to hang out for a little bit? Okay, so if anyone needs to get out of here of our other guests or wanted to speak more on what you are seeing locally. Anyone?
I was just
Yeah.
something quick because he did an amazing presentation, so,
Yeah.
we do have some, you mind to check them out?
Yeah, come up in the front, yeah, and use your presenting voice.
All right.
And introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, my name is Derek Walski. I work at the Associated Bank here in, Medford in the county market. I do see a lot of my customers around the area, and, I just want to say, what an amazing presentation this was, because not many people come forward with all this stuff, and I've seen it personally firsthand, hundreds of thousands of dollars lost that I had to say, there's nothing I can do. You know, and it's just my customers that I've been working with for years. And I'm kind of glad that the Age Coalition has this presentation because it's amazing. So I'd like to thank you guys for having us out here. So he covered everything pretty much that I would have. It was a great. I do have a handout here that has the ones that I see all the time come through the office because some of these are a little rarer than others, but Love Scam was #1. So I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but I would highly recommend taking it. The only other thing I would mention is that if you guys have a banker, if you have somebody you work with at your banks, don't be afraid to ask them. That's what they're there for. If you guys are falling victim to a scam, anything like that, that's what they're there for. Even me, like, so we do have cards here too. Just because you don't bank with me or you don't talk to your bank a lot, doesn't mean you can't ask questions because they're there to protect your money, okay? So feel free, I have this stuff up there. I'll leave my cards and that's pretty much it. All right. Oh, hold on, Miss?
Routing numbers.
Routing numbers, okay, come on up here, there you go.
Hi,
Who are you?
I'm Ashley. I'm also Associated Bank.
One thing that we do hear quite a bit from people, and it's not just the older generation, it is even the younger generation. People will get a phone call that their routing number has been compromised. Routing numbers to banks are public knowledge. That is something that anybody can Google and just look up to know. That number just traces that check or whatnot back to that bank, that organization. It doesn't give them any information because it is public information. So when you're getting those phone calls saying like your routing number's been compromised, I need you to give that information to us. Do not run and grab your checkbooks and read off any of that information.
that is definitely a scam.
Thank you. I
Thank you,
got
guys.
that one. That's the first one today that I haven't gotten.
Oh, well, that's good.
Got scam under the bus.
Yeah, no, they're always hard to get, so. I'm Chief Liskey, from Medford Police Department, and I'm just gonna touch, Jeff did a great job and also Derek here with some of that information, just to try to localize it. So I did a computer search just this morning to see how local this actually is in the city of Medford and Taylor County. I did a 3-month search just on fraud complaints, and there was 12 in the city and 14 in the county, and that's in the last 3 months. So you've got 26 people that have either fallen victims or nearly fallen victims and called and reported to us. I think as Jeff said, it's probably, 1 in 10, 1 in 11 or something like that, that actually get reported. We do run into that as well, where we hear it from family members that are calling saying, my mom is doing this or so-and-so is doing it. They don't want to report it because they're embarrassed. They fell victim and they don't want anyone to know, so they will keep it hush. Don't do that. Feel free to report it, whether we can get the money back to you or work with agencies to do that. It's better than not reporting it and falling victim again, so.
Did you sound like if I would call the police department, I would get results?
No, not necessarily, because
No, I mean,
a
just-
lot of these,
Tell me what to do.
we will tell you what to, we'll give you like
But I got-
email addresses and stuff like that.
Got all kinds of calls coming in, we can't check them all.
No, if you call the police department or the sheriff's department, it's gonna get looked at by an officer.
Okay, so maybe I called the wrong number.
If it's a number that someone gave you, potentially, but it should be the right number.
Somebody-
I know for a fact the city of Medford will at minimum have an officer call you if there's a complaint.
Okay, so I should have called back again.
Yes, in the sheriff's department, the same way. They're gonna send an officer out there if you want to talk to them. And the unfortunate thing is we may tell you that, I'm sorry, you're probably never gonna see that money again.
Well, I-
But here's how to protect yourself from the future. Call your bank, cancel this, cancel your stuff like that. So,
I just wanted to report that it was happening.
yes, and that, the dispatcher may be able to take that without having an officer come out there, because
But
people
they-
will call and.
That they were too busy, they didn't have time to go through all this. So
I'm not-
was it-
I'm not-
Was this just the secretary?
So the dispatchers that when you call the 2200, the 748-2200 number, that goes to dispatch center. So those are not actual officers that work the road. They do work for the county. They're employees of the county, but they don't have the same experiences as certified law enforcement officers. Yes, you can say, I would like to talk to an officer, or they could say, I'll have one call back. But we do, those dispatchers, I mean, they can get 10 calls a day saying, hey, I just got this phone call and is someone trying to scam money out of me? They may tell you, yes, we are aware that's going on, because I've had those, and I'll say, yep, we're aware of that scam that's going on. And I'll ask, did you give out any personal information? When the person tells me no, I congratulate them, say, good job, keep up the good work, and,
I get so many scam calls that I don't think. They have to be pretty darn good to get past me.
oh, but they
Like I
get
said,
wily.
I thought that this is a new one, so I decided, well, I'll let people know that this is going around.
Yes.
I haven't
just-
called since, but I should again.
I would say just because you think it's new, it probably not. We've seen a lot of them, and there are so many, they're getting very creative.
But if I get more, I should call the.
You can, because it's information. You'll see sometimes in the Star News, they'll put like scam alerts. If it's one that they've not heard of or it's going around, real popular for a time, they'll put that out there. All the scams that Jeff had talked about, of those, the last 3 months I did, pretty much all of them were on there. The only different one where Jeff is saying it's them reaching out to you to try to scam you out of your money. What we are seeing recently is actually where you might be going out and giving money to them, and they're doing nothing other than going on Facebook. Whoever has Facebook, you might be looking for a rental property or a piece of land or something like that. What a lot of these scammers are doing now is they're going on Facebook and they're finding these people that are actually posting, or they're just going on tax records and posting these lands or properties for sale or for rent. And they make a fake account and they put it out there. Now you're looking for an apartment for your kids that are coming up here. You reach out, hey, I want this apartment. And they say, well, I need, 3 months down payment. It's really popular. I need you to go to PayPal or send me this money. And as soon as you send them that money, then they're done with you. They don't care. They got that money. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I'm trying to get into this rental property. I already paid 3 months rent. They're not returning my phone calls. I can't get a hold of them. Well, it's because they weren't the real person. So that's one where it's actually you seeking out and giving out your money when it's not even a real thing. So caution on that. But otherwise, every other one was hit on here. Word of caution on PayPal. If anyone uses PayPal, you might have someone asking you, hey, let's send that money, but do it friends or family. If you send money on PayPal with friends or family, you have no recourse with PayPal. That's basically saying you take that money. If you're buying any type of merchandise, don't do the friends or family because they're not gonna be able to help you. If you're doing it with merchandise, there's extra fees that go on top of it, then PayPal can actually help you get that money back. Not always, but in some situations. So yeah, that's kind of the local thing, and I said I was gonna be brief, but if anyone has any questions about that on the local stuff, I would say of these 26, the highest one that I saw was $52,000 that someone was out. And that was one at the, excuse me here, with investment scam. Hey, if you give me this money, we'll invest it, you're gonna get a big return, and they were out, so.
I gotta tell you, like, a little experience I had 2 years ago, I got a call, oh, you want a car, brand new car. And I played along with it,
Mhm.
and anyhow, you have, but you have to pay the taxes on it.
Yes.
So I said, well, bank is closed. Oh, well, you go to a dollar store or whatever it was. So I played along with him, went up there, and he, what color car do you want, like this and this and that?
Well, they played to your desires.
Well, I knew enough to do it. I
Yes.
just played along with it.
And I would
Because
say,
I won a car one time, and you don't pay tax on it, and you pay it when the taxes come due.
yes, and I will say the banks are really good here. You'll have Quick Trip, Walmart, they're really good. If you go up there trying to get gift cards or Western Union, they've been good about telling people you are being scammed, don't do it, or they'll refuse to do it for you, which is good in a lot of cases. I've had one instance at Quick Trip, they were trying to buy some gift cards to send to this somewhere over on the East Coast, $10,000 worth of gift cards, and Quick Trip said you were being scammed, and he was very insistent to talk to an officer to prove them wrong. So I did go up there and talk to him. I said, you're being scammed. He said, absolutely not. I am not. I'm going to a different gas station. And I said, I am warning you, I'm documenting my report that you are being scammed, so don't come back to us. So he's willingly giving his money, even though he's being told by employees and law enforcement not to do it, and they will still do it. So
I have
What is
a
that?
question for you. Well,
yes,
if you said you would chef, I would like to talk to you after.
I can stick around. I will be here, so.
Thanks, best you can.
What's up?
Okay, I'm gonna be way faster than everyone else. I just want to say, everyone else did a great job, but I wanted to kind of tie in locally. So I'm Jen, I'm from Human Services. I do adult protective services. So all the calls that everybody's talking about in the community, they all come back to my desk. You all heard about all of the scams, all of the different ways that people are getting scammed. I can tell you that we've had every one of those in the past few months. I can tell you my last 8 calls have resulted in people that you know losing a little over $600,000. So I want to tell you that, and that's my last 8 calls, $600,000. And I want to tell you that because I think it's really important to know the impact that it has on our county and to be really aware of it. And it's people that I know, people that are really, really smart, who thought that could never happen to them. So, and like Jeff said, like Chad said, there's really no way of getting it back. And sometimes it's an accidental. If a family member approaches you and says, hey, can I use your debit card? And then there goes your Bitcoin out the window, right? So it's really easy. It's really fast, and it's a lot. So I can tell you that the last love scam we had was a little over $30,000. They pursued her through 4 different bank changes. I can tell you that somebody actually just so they had a timeshare that somebody was trying to help them with for $300,000. I can tell you that somebody I love, it was taken for $120,000 because they were told that they won a car and that all they needed to pay was this little bit. So
That's a little bit.
it's just a little bit, right? $120,000 later.
One of cars worth.
Yeah, so anyway, be aware, if you're not sure, please call law enforcement, please call our office. The banks are absolutely excellent at recognizing it. We usually get our reports from the banks, Quick Trip. The grocery store, Walmart is really quick at it, so don't be afraid to say something. Keep checking, okay? Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
All right, people. It's time to collect the cards. Now, remember, if you don't write down something that you want to learn or a step that you're taking, are you going to win your prize? No, so you better write that down. All right, so you wanna pass them to chunks, I can come and pick them up.
I just.
Thank you,
don't
thank
have
you.
it, I thought, like, don't make it, so.
Thank you. Brian, you have more? I do, yes, over here. Yeah, probably, if you don't mind. Yeah, start with the document. All right, oh, more cards, excellent, thank you.
Everybody turn their card.
Oh, two cards down the middle, Dan. One together, right behind his computer next to the video. And two more in the middle.
I'm going.
Never. All right, thank you. I gave you a bigger staff. All right, I see one more person filling out, but beyond that, let me tell you a little bit. Do you want to tell? What do you want to do? I'll tell you. Oh, you can talk today. So you talk. Dan's gonna talk. Maybe Dan can talk about the prizes, Dan. What do we understand?
So kind of going along with our theme about identity theft, security.
Didn't pick
We
yet.
do have, document
Talking about the
bags
prizes.
that you can put in, they're fire resistant, Ziploc, waterproof, you can put your valuable documents in here, put them in a safe, if you don't have a safe, it's a good, starting point. And then also we do have one for the women and two for the guys, if your choice. They are,
The RFID.
yeah.
RFID blocking wallets, because there's been like people will.
Scammers,
Yeah.
stuff like that, so. It's a layer of protection, you know, it's not
People
gonna-
can't walk up and
Oh,
scan your card in your wallet, so without stealing it, they can scan it.
How do
there-
we
but
know
there are
that?
clever people out there
Oh,
that do, you know, they'll walk behind somebody and try to scan their purse. Collect their credit card information, so, it's a layer of protection, for your choice.
And they're cute, so. And one more fun fact about the pens that we have, we specifically chose those pens, those are for you to keep, reminder, they are gel pens, which makes it harder for scammers to change than like a ballpoint pen. That's what Melissa told me, I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's, yes, it's true, okay.
Check washing.
Okay, yes, so they help prevent check washing is what the bank professionals are saying. All right, so. Company, what do you want to draw for? Huh?
What's that?
We're on 10 wins today. You want to run them out to people? Yes. Our first, well, let's see. Our first big goes to Arnold Silva. Raise your hand. The next big. Hola. Carol Ellenbecker. Unless you want to yell the name. The next big. Donna Anders. Woo! Make you come on down. That's for Donna. Just kidding. Ah. All right, the next one. Brenda Benenson. Is that how you say your last name? Benson? Benson? I don't know. I'm not from, yeah, I am from here. Just kidding. All right, last two bags are going to Gary Ellenbecker. Well, it's a safe household. And Dawn Toombs. Wherever Dawn is. Is she down there too? Perfect. Take these up in the right direction. All right.
Do the correct, pick out two guys and two girls.
Well, otherwise they might have a man in their life. Ooh, that's
There
the
goes.
first one.
First one, Dolores.
Wait, did she write down what she wanted to learn? Nope. I told you guys, so close. All right, Karen Schubert. Derek Walski. Oh, Derek. Derek, way to go. Good job. I'm thinking. Shirley Slacker. Right in the front. All right, hopefully we pick a right name, right? Bonnie Wagner. So this one is for you, but if you want to use it, or it doesn't have to be for a boy, it can be for whoever.
Lots of room in there.
All right, any other things, questions, comments, concerns? Thank you all for coming. This was excellent. I learned a lot, which is great. And if people have questions specifically for Jeff, he's gonna stick around for a little bit. Otherwise, you're all free to go grab some of the giveaways over there, the handouts. And thank you, thank you.
Doris, good to see you.
Thanks. If you want to hit me a call,
Alarm go off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's pretty much all I was thinking. I need a microphone, I think. That's it. That's Sure. Always, it's not all them guys. Oh, shoot. That's all that yeah. Trust her. Yeah. Better to have that than not.
Yeah, what, yeah.
Have a good day. But I think. I can never say.
Good, Dan. Baby. You know, has elections on the
gonna give you one of these two, buddy.
Yeah. I'll pass it along for sure. Thank you.
They're very, they have no shame, you know, no shame, no discrimination. That's where the peace is.
Kevin and Gwen are my love.
I knew she would. Yeah.